things. And this next one grabbed me to the point where I think it deserves its own segment. So we're going to go back to May 6th, 1965 for this one, and we're going to visit Minneapolis, Minnesota. So really not too far from here, 5 or 6 hours. And this comes to us by way of Wcco AM, which still very much exists. Now, there's two noteworthy things about this, and the first being that this was 1965. Very few, if any, TV and radio stations had radar yet. If by some miracle they did, it was not in real time. As far as I know, the only people with real-time radar in 1965 would have been the National Weather Service and the military. So a total of 6 tornadoes ran through the Minneapolis area in one evening. And the best they could do was they took a good old paper map of the Minneapolis metropolitan area and a pen, and they were taking calls from brave listeners who were describing the tornado. How big is it? Is it on the ground or not? How fast is it going? What direction is it going? And they kind of built up a little network of kind of improvised storm spotters, none trained. And for all intents and purposes, it worked pretty well. It certainly wasn't perfect. And indeed, one of the people who had called into WCCO earlier in the evening was killed in one of the later tornadoes of that cluster of 6, and 13 people were killed altogether. But anyway, the second noteworthy thing about this is that this captures kind of an odd time in broadcast history. So, certainly within the realm of Oddity Archive, we tend to think a lot of civil defense broadcasting. Well, the Conelrad era didn't do weather at all. That ended in 1963. Now we're into the emergency broadcast system era, and that didn't start folding in weather alerts until, I want to say, probably the early 80s. So, some stations wanted to have alert tones, and they just kind of had to improvise. Some would just do a basic sine wave, and that didn't really do it. So what WCCO did, and this is truly the definition of ghetto, they created their own little homemade Klaxon system, I guess comparing it to the Klaxon horn, if you've ever seen one.
Ooh, yeah.
What they did was WCCO was controlled by CBS. The overlords at CBS had sent WCCO a bunch of ashtrays at some point, and at least one of them was a big double bay ashtray, I guess, so 2 people on the air could smoke. And 1965. So what they did was they took one of these big ashtrays and they put it on top of their big professional degaussing magnet, which is an electric magnet which is used to erase audio tapes and later videotapes. And so what they would do is they would have the ashtray on the magnet, turn on the magnet, and it would start vibrating in rhythm, and they just mic'd it. And it's weird and warbly and really wonky, but you can't say it's not distinctive and that it wasn't effective, and that it doesn't necessarily sound like a precursor to some more contemporary alert tones. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
We interrupt this program to bring you an official tornado warning from the U.S. Weather Bureau. Broadcast of this official tornado warning will follow in just 30 seconds here on WCCO Radio. Please stand by.